Happening late today, a jury is now a day away from receiving the federal case against Brett Hankison, the former Metro Police detective charged for his actions the night of the Breonna-Taylor raid. Today, Brett Hankison finishing up hours of testimony on the stand over 2 days, at times fighting through tears. Hankison says he fired 10 shots into the side of Breonna Taylor's apartment to save his fellow officers that night. But today, prosecutors pressing him, saying he was guessing at the threat and its real location, putting innocent people at risk. WHAS 11's Isaiah Kim Martinez and senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton covering the trial. And Isaiah, certainly an interesting moment for Hankison as he left that courtroom late today.
Well, Doug, there was that and also a major development tonight. Last-second arguments made by defense attorneys before closing arguments tomorrow. They're saying Breonna Taylor's rights, civil rights, could not have been violated by Brett Hankison because they say she had already been killed before Hankison fired his weapon. This is, again, sure to be heard before a jury in closing arguments tonight, or tomorrow, I should say. Meantime, just before 5 o'clock, we saw both Brett Hankison and his attorneys walk out of the courthouse, and then we saw this. Moments ago, Brett Hankison coming face to face with Breonna Taylor supporters just outside the federal courthouse. It comes as federal prosecutors have spent all day grilling Hankison, suggesting he guessed where the danger was in Breonna Taylor's apartment when he fired 10 shots into her covered sliding glass door and window. Hankison insisting he identified a threat when he saw muzzle flashes lighting up the home, saying, quote, "I had a split-second decision to do nothing and watch people die or shoot back and stop the threat." Similar to this testimony from his 2022 wanton endangerment trial.
Why did you do what you did?
To protect myself, and more importantly, and first, primary function at that time when I returned fire was to protect the fellow detectives that were stuck in that breezeway.
Hankison testifying, quote, "There was zero risk of hitting anyone outside the threat," saying the only person my bullet could have struck was the shooter.
It's something that the jury, they'll think about what would they do in that position if they were being fired on.
Attorney Nick Mudd of Mudd Legal Group isn't involved in this case, but has followed Hankison's trials.
Would they just stand there? If they see their partner getting hit, would they just stand there and not fire back? I think that's going to be something that'll be weighed heavily in the jury room.
Hankison, in a shift from his last federal trial, pushing back on more of prosecutors' arguments, even changing some of his testimony. Nearly a year ago, he acknowledged an AR-15 style rifle was not involved in this incident. Now, Hankison testifying, quote, "I can't agree with that."
Being through this the third time, his lawyers know what they're going to ask. He knows what they're going to ask, and certainly he's prepped for that.
During a break from testimony, I asked Tamika Palmer, Breonna Taylor's mother, how she felt seeing Hankison on the stand again. She told me, quote, "Irritated. He has no regard for anybody, officers or the other people. He doesn't want to take any accountability." Bottom line, the jury isn't simply weighing a policy violation. They must decide whether Hankison used his gun with an intent to kill.
Well, tomorrow the big day, Isaiah, for sure. The jury instructions. Let's get right back to the two arguments this jury will hear tomorrow and the evidence they'll have to weigh for a decision. What are they going to be hearing?
From prosecutors, you're going to hear the argument that Brett Hankison did not identify a target, therefore he was reckless in his firing of his weapon. And then on defense attorney's side, that it doesn't matter what we know at this point, more so what Brett Hankison perceived to be a danger and what he needed to do to save lives at the time. And ultimately, in their words, that a policy violation does not necessarily constitute a criminal act. Doug.
All right, thank you very much. We'll be watching closely tomorrow.